What did I do to deserve this? Where did I go wrong? God, why are you doing this to me? These are typical questions we ask when we begin to suffer. If you're like me, I don't like to suffer. I want life to be predictable, and I want things to turn out the way that I want them to turn out. And if it doesn't, then life is just bad. Let's face it, the belief that life ought to be fair and easy is a common philosophy of all mankind. We are happy until everything goes wrong. Our faith is strong till we feel like God is not present. When good people like us suffer, then our thoughts change. We wonder whether justice, order, or God Himself even exist. We're in the second week of our series on Joseph, and I feel like we can learn a lot from Joseph's own suffering. You see, Joseph had come to a point where he was saying, I don't deserve this. When we look at Joseph's life, things just don't add up. First, his father favors him with a special coat. The result, brothers are jealous. Second, God gives him visions. Result, the whole family is mad enough to sell him into slavery. Third, Joseph, while he was a slave, with nothing to lose, faithfully resists temptations. And the result is imprisonment. Could anything else go wrong? Well, that's where we find ourselves in the story of Joseph. Our passage comes from Genesis 39:19 through 40:23. And I'm just going to summarize it for you because it's kind of long. While in prison, we see a little hope when Joseph wins the trust of his warden. The warden puts him in charge of all the prisoners, and God causes him to succeed. Over time, Joseph befriends a couple of Pharaoh's attendants, and he interprets their dreams. Joseph sees an opportunity for hope because Joseph knows that the dreams of the cupbearer, that he will be restored. And he makes a simple request. Remember me when you are restored to your position. And you know what happened, of course. The interpretation is correct, and the cupbearer is restored to his position. But look what Genesis 40:23 says. Pharaoh's chief cupbearer, however, forgot all about Joseph, never giving him a second thought. What a friend that was. He forgot him for 2 full years. And just when we thought things were looking up, Joseph continued in his suffering. Things can get worse for us. Joseph successfully befriends the hurting, but he is forgotten and ignored. What's going on here? Character development is going on here. Let's look at James 1:2 through 4. Dear brothers and sisters, when trouble of any kind comes your way, consider it an opportunity for great joy. For you know that when your faith is being tested, your endurance has a chance to grow. So let it grow, for when your endurance is fully developed, you will be perfect and complete, needing nothing. You see how God works? God is refining Joseph. All through this suffering, the product would be a selfless, wise, and radical God-centered man. There will be no childish pride or foolishness. Joseph will be ready to rule Egypt, ready to save a nation, and ready to forgive his brothers. As we move through the story of Joseph, we can learn something from the way he endured through suffering. So let's look at how we can suffer successfully. First, we must live by faith and not by sight. Everything in Joseph's life looked out of order. Blessings led to suffering, faithfulness led to punishment. In times like these, we can begin to think, life is senseless, faithfulness is pointless, and God is absent. I might as well live the way I want to. That could have been Joseph's attitude also. But Joseph knew that God was there all along. Look at what Genesis 39:2 says. The Lord was with Joseph, and he succeeded in everything that he did as he served in the house of the Egyptian master. And again in Genesis 39:21, we see that God was with Joseph in the prison and showed him his faithfulness and love. And the Lord made Joseph a favorite with the prison warden. When God can't be seen or felt, we need to know that He is there. Second, we must seek to serve in every situation. When we are suffering, our tendency is just to crawl in a hole somewhere, or maybe we just want to hide. Maybe we want to stay in our beds wishing things that would get better. But Joseph chooses to serve faithfully in Potiphar's house and in prison. He attended Pharaoh's officials, and he sought to comfort them when they looked like they had something on their mind or when they were hurting. No matter where we are, no matter what situation that we are occurred with, we need to take the opportunity to serve. Third, apply your gifts in your current circumstances. A man with Joseph's administrative ability deserved a nice corporate job. but God had him apply his gifts in slavery and imprisonment. A guy with Joseph's spiritual sensitivity, he deserved a place among the wise men. But God had him explaining inmates' dreams. Here's the principle: accept even imperfect opportunities to express your giftedness. Last, don't try to manipulate your future. Listen to how desperate Joseph sounds in Genesis 40:14 through 15. And please remember me and do me a favor when things go well for you. Mention me to Pharaoh so he might let me out of this prison. For I was kidnapped from my homeland, the land of the Hebrews, and now I am here in prison, but I did nothing to deserve this. Somehow, some way, he wants out. Joseph doesn't realize God's timing is perfect, and he's trying to put Joseph into a place. He's doing God's timetable. So we have to learn from that, and we have to look at Joseph's life. God used the darkest periods in Joseph's life to prepare him for future service and leadership. So God reminds us not to be surprised by suffering. 1 Peter 4:12 tells us, "Dear friends, don't be surprised at the fiery trials you are going through, as if something strange were happening to you. It is God's standard for faith development." When it comes to building people, there's nothing like hardship and challenge.